Hey guys, I'm Jason. I recently went 90 days with no added sugar, and I wanted to share 6 things that I learned through the process that I totally didn't expect to. And at the very end, I also want to share just a paradigm shift that I've had as far as all these different nutrition strategies and plans you hear about, like paleo, keto, carnivore, vegan, something they all share in common. So basically, after learning the effects that refined sugar has on insulin resistance in the body, I decided to go 3 months without added sugar and just see what that was like. Now, anybody who knows me personally will be like, that's crazy, because I've always had a huge sweet tooth. I'm the type of person that can roll out of bed in the morning and go straight to brownies and ice cream for breakfast. And what's worse is I've always had this high activity level to kind of justify it, or at least enable it in my mind, because I would be like, well, it doesn't matter that I just ate half of a pie or this pint of ice cream. I'm just going to go on a long run later or a big workout. My body needs the energy anyways. And so what this resulted in was a long duration of time where my body just loved sugar and honestly got reliant on it. I want to clarify that during this experiment, I didn't cut out sugar that occurs naturally, like in fruit, for example. I just cut out refined sugar that is processed, it's added into food that can enter the bloodstream at super high speed. So one thing I definitely did not expect was the effect that it had on my training. So going without added sugar, it mimicked some of the effects that people strive for when they take performance enhancing drugs. That's a pretty bold statement. Let me explain what I mean by that. So PEDs, a big advantage of them isn't just that it like magically puts on muscle, you get stronger just by taking it. It actually, in a lot of cases, reduces your recovery time, so that instead of doing a really hard workout and then having to rest a couple days before your body's ready for another hard workout, it reduces that recovery time down to a day or even multiple times a day, where you're doing these harder workouts, you're putting more of a workload on your body, and it's able to progress faster because of that increased workload and the decreased time in between workouts. So with sugar, I used to come into the gym sometimes, and I'd be in the middle of a workout, and every once in a while, it wasn't every day, but sometimes I would just feel so gassed, like so low energy in the middle of that workout. And I'd be like, man, I don't know what it is. Like, I've been sleeping okay. And really, it was just a lot of empty calories getting put into my body, where once I removed those calories, just naturally, I started eating other things like proteins and fats and just more substantial energy that my body could pull from. And then not just during the workout, but afterwards, because it has all this protein, for example, just sitting on the sidelines, it's able to recover faster. So when I would do a workout, I wouldn't spend a day where I couldn't walk. So my muscle soreness went down, was one of the biggest things. And I was able to I felt like have my best effort in the gym almost every day. So the second thing that I was very surprised to discover was that sugar does have a time and place. So there's twice during the 90 days where I had a very strenuous workload, let's say. So it was once when I was doing a 15-mile trail run through the mountains, and then another time it was an all-day CrossFit competition. So in my past, I've done marathons that lasted a few hours, to ultra marathons that have been over a day, to week-long training in the military that lasted more or less moving the whole time for a week. And so I'm very acutely familiar at this point with what a physical crash feels like. And usually your energy just all of a sudden takes a huge dive, and you start to also get like these immobilizing cramps. Now, what I found was sugar, along with electrolytes, but we'll focus on sugar, really helps with that. So refined sugar, because it enters the bloodstream so fast, it's like a direct injection of energy into your body. So when you have a really, really high output going, sometimes you need that quick hit of energy to avoid crashing. What I did during these 90 days was I tried to replace those moments. I knew that I would need nutrition, and so I tried to eat the more naturally occurring sugars like fruit and things like that. And I just found it wasn't the same. Did I get some energy? Yes, but it was nothing like in the past when I've been able to just get that really quick hit of energy. So that being said, sugar does have its time and place. I found personally that my lifestyle doesn't demand it every day or even every week. A third thing I learned has to do with fasting and going without food. So about once a month, every month since I was 12, I would do a fast from food and water for 24 hours. And the higher my sugar intake used to be, the sooner into these fasts, I would just crash. My energy would tank and I wouldn't have energy to do anything. Where after an extended period of time of cutting out this refined sugar, I was able to keep a consistent energy level throughout the entire fast. And I think this has to do with being able to lower my insulin resistance, which in turn allows my body to release its stored energy to better moderate itself, rather than being dependent on constantly high inputs of energy. The fourth thing I learned was actually very eye-opening, probably the most eye-opening, and that was the amount of hidden sugar that is everywhere. So even day-to-day foods where you wouldn't expect to see it, I kept encountering it. And right here I have, as an example, some ice cream that my son picked out a couple days ago from the store, unicorn swirl, okay? And right here I've got Sweet Baby Ray's original barbecue sauce. Now, one serving size of this ice cream, 2/3 cups, has 17 grams of added sugar. That's about what you'd expect, right? You expect ice cream to have sugar. Sweet Baby Ray's, if I took 2/3 cups of the same serving size as this ice cream, I did the math ahead of time so I didn't have to do it on camera, but it was 84 grams of sugar in the barbecue sauce for the same amount of ice cream. Now, you're probably saying, well, I never eat 2/3 cups of barbecue sauce, but the point is, even if you eat 2 tablespoons, it's the same amount as a larger amount of ice cream. So I just use this as an example that I found most, not all, but most processed foods tended to have some amount of sugar, and some of them were very surprising. So just a second order effect of doing this 3 months without added sugar is that I just ended up eating more whole foods like fruits, meats, and vegetables, and just kind of ended up eating a lot less processed stuff. So number 5 is actually really good news, especially after the last one. You don't have to give up barbecue sauce. I went into this ahead of time knowing that there was going to be some foods that just wouldn't taste the same without being sweet. And some of those foods I just had to give up for 3 months, like ice cream. That was really weird to go 3 months not eat ice cream, but I did it. But other things like yogurt, right? It's got I think, a lot of nutritional benefits. And what I used for sweetener was stevia, which is a plant-based sweetener, and then also raw unfiltered honey, which is a more naturally occurring sugar. And between the two of those, you can usually manage to still eat normally a lot of things you're used to, like barbecue sauce, for example. You can find ones that are sweetened differently. Now, that being said, I wanted to avoid, and I'd encourage you to avoid, if you do this, just replacing everything with artificial sweeteners and going crazy with that, because you think about it and your mental want and dependency on sweet things remains throughout the entire 3 months, and you hit the end and you're still going to want all those sweet things you used to. So do it in moderation. All right, number 6. This might be the one that people are most interested in, and that is the effect that cutting out refined sugar has on weight loss. And I was surprised to find out that I actually didn't lose any weight during this entire 90 days. I weighed myself on day 1 and day 90, and there was a 1 pound difference, which was probably honestly just how much water I drank that day. How could you cut out sugar and not lose weight, right? It seems counterintuitive. Well, the research is accurate when it says it basically comes down to 2 numbers. You have calories being consumed and calories being expended. And put expended and consumed, okay? So these calories being expended need to be higher than these calories being consumed in order to lose weight. Now, here's the reason that you could lose weight by cutting out refined sugar, and there are two very good reasons. The first one being, if you're cutting out a lot of dense, empty calories in your diet that don't really fill you up, like soda, for example, you might be able to just lower your consumption, right? So my expenditure proved to be about equal to my consumption during this. But if you're cutting out a bunch of empty calories that don't make you feel full anyways, and you're still eating the same amount of food, you're still feeling this full to the same amount, your consumption is going down, even though your expenditure could remain the same. And that means, boom, you're in that perfect magical zone where you're losing weight, if that's where you want to be. Now, the second thing, back to performance enhancing drugs. So by not consuming empty calories, I'm able to put in more work at the gym. I'm able to recover faster. I'm able to build muscle faster. And what does muscle do? Well, it allows you to have a higher energy output, which in turn raises your metabolism. So maybe you're still consuming the same amount of calories. The amount of calories that you've consumed has stayed the same. But by adding more muscle, your expenditure has gone up. And so maybe your weight doesn't go down, but your body fat does go down due to this effect. And finally, as promised, the huge paradigm shift that I experienced while doing this 3 months without refined sugar was these different nutrition plans you're constantly hearing about, right? And you're like, who's better? So you hear about Paleo or Keto or Carnivore or vegan, right? And you'll have people that all swear by these, right? You'll have some people like on the carnivore diet, they just eat meat and they're like, I feel so much better. My brain activity is up, my energy level's up, I fixed these health issues. And then you come to the vegans and you see the same thing. And you're like, wait, these specifically are polar opposites. Like, how can you swear by this and, swear that like meat equals death or vegetables equals death and both feel great, right? Does it just not matter what we eat? Well, obviously it does, right? We've seen the health effects of why it matters. I want you to look at, what do these all share in common? It's not what you're eating, and maybe you've already guessed it, but it's what you're not eating. You're not eating refined sugars in any of these. So by itself, I really liked cutting out refined sugar because it wasn't such a drastic thing where it's like there's an entire macro group like carbs. It's like, oh, I can't eat any carbs. No, I didn't even cut out sugar entirely. It was just the added refined processed sugar. And I found it was very straightforward and simple to adapt my diet around it. And it had all of these benefits that came with it. Now, if you've had any experience with something similar to this, I'd love to hear what your experience was because I'm just one data point. So let me know, comment. If you think this is good information that more people need to see, please like the video because that helps more people see it. And I wouldn't make videos if I didn't want people to see it.